In a galaxy filled with strange planets and many different races, a dark shadow loomed over everything. An alien race known as the Zarkons was planning to attack. Their ships, huge and menacing, were seen drifting near the outer worlds. The Zarkons were known for their strength and ruthlessness. Many planets had fallen to them, and their hunger for power seemed endless. In the heart of the galaxy, the Galactic Council met. It was a gathering of leaders from different alien races, each representing their worlds. They sat in a large chamber, surrounded by glowing screens that showed images of the approaching Zarkon fleet. Tension filled the air as the leaders argued. Some insisted they needed to prepare for war. Others believed they should negotiate, thinking the Zarkons could be reasoned with. "Look at the evidence," shouted a tall, blue-skinned alien named Zelthar. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The Zarkons do not negotiate. They destroy! We must act now before they reach us." But another leader, a small green creature named Tiliac, shook his head. "If we attack, we will start a war that could destroy us all. We need to be smart about this. We can send envoys to talk to them." The debate continued, with voices rising and falling like waves. Outside, the people of the galaxy watched in fear. They could feel the tension, the uncertainty. Everyone knew that time was running out. Meanwhile, in a hidden corner of the galaxy, a group of human rebels gathered. Once, humans were respected members of the Council, but after a failed mission that led to the loss of many lives, they were labeled as traitors. Now, they lived in secrecy, away from the Council's watchful eyes. Led by Captain Sarah, a brave and determined woman, the rebels were not ready to give up. "Listen up, everyone!" Sarah called, her voice firm. The room fell silent as her team turned their attention to her. "We cannot sit back and wait for the Council to act. The Zarkons are coming, and they will not stop until they destroy everything. We need to take matters into our own hands." The group nodded, their faces filled with a mix of fear and determination. Sarah spread out a holographic map of the Zarkon fleet on the table. "We have to gather information about their movements. If we can find their weaknesses, we might stand a chance against them." Tom, one of the rebels, leaned closer to the map. "What if we sneak into their territory? We can gather intel and warn the Council before it's too late." Sarah thought for a moment. It was risky, but they had little choice. "That's exactly what we'll do. We'll divide into teams. One team will scout their ships, and another will try to find a way to sabotage their supplies." As the rebels planned, hope flickered in their hearts. They had been betrayed, but they would not let that stop them. They would fight for their homes, for their families, and for the galaxy they loved. That night, as the stars twinkled overhead, the rebels prepared for their mission. They loaded their small ships with supplies and weapons. Everyone knew that this would be a dangerous journey, but they were ready to face whatever came their way. "Remember," Sarah said, looking at her team, "we may be called traitors, but today we fight for what is right. We fight for our homes and for everyone who cannot fight for themselves. We will show the galaxy that humans are not weak. We are strong, and we will protect our world." With that, the rebels took off into the darkness of space, their hearts pounding with determination. They were stepping into the unknown, ready to confront the Zarkons and challenge the Council's views about them. The galaxy was at a crossroads, and it was time for the so-called betraying humans to rise up and save the day. Their journey had just begun, and they knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The night was quiet in the rebel base, but tension filled the air. Captain Sarah and her team had just returned from their daring mission to gather information about the Zarkon fleet. They had barely escaped the enemy territory, their hearts racing with the thrill of survival. Now they huddled around a table, eager to share what they had learned. "Okay, everyone, listen up," Sarah said, her voice steady but urgent. "We have crucial intel on the Zarkons. Their main fleet is moving towards the planet of Draylon, and they plan to attack in 2 days. We have to warn the Galactic Council before it's too late." Tom, always quick to question, furrowed his brow. "Do you think they will listen to us? They already think we're traitors." Sarah nodded. "I know it won't be easy, but if we don't act, countless lives will be lost. We must try." As they planned their next move, little did they know that the Council was already on to them. Inside the shimmering walls of the Council chamber, alarms blared, and holographic images of the rebels flickered on the screens. Zelthar, the tall blue alien, pointed a finger at the images with anger in his eyes. "These humans are up to something. They've been spying on the Zarkons. We cannot let them undermine our authority." Tiliak, ever cautious, tried to calm the situation. We should listen to what they have to say. They may have valuable information. We cannot act rashly. But the other council members were convinced of the humans' betrayal. They decided to send a strike team to capture the rebels before they could warn anyone. Back at the rebel base, the mood was tense as Sarah and her team prepared for their trip to the council. Suddenly, an alarm rang out, echoing through the halls. The rebels rushed to their posts, ready for anything. "Stay calm," Sarah shouted. "Get to your stations. We have to be ready." Before they could react, the doors burst open, and council enforcers stormed in, armed and ready. The rebels quickly grabbed their weapons, but the enforcers had numbers on their side. A fierce battle broke out in the base. "Don't let them take us!" Tom shouted, firing his weapon at the approaching soldiers. The room was filled with blaster fire and chaos as the rebels fought back bravely. Despite their efforts, the council's forces overwhelmed them. One by one, the rebels were captured. Sarah fought fiercely but was soon surrounded. Just as they were about to take her, she yelled, "We are not the enemy! We have information about the Zarkons! You need to listen to us!" Zelthar stepped forward, his expression cold. "You are traitors, and traitors do not deserve to be heard. You will face justice for your actions." The rebels were shackled and brought before the council. Sarah stood defiantly as the leaders glared at her. "You think you can silence us? The Zarkons are coming! If you don't listen, you will regret it." Tiliak, watching the exchange, felt a twinge of doubt. Perhaps we should hear what they have to say. We cannot afford to ignore any threat. But Zelthar was firm. These humans have brought nothing but trouble. They are a danger to us all. Despite the protest from some members, the council decided to imprison the rebels. As they were taken away, Sarah felt a mix of anger and fear. "You will see. You will regret not listening to us," she shouted. But her words fell on deaf ears. In their dark prison cells, the rebels plotted their next move. "We have to escape," Tom whispered, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. "If we can get out, we can warn everyone about the Zarkons." "We can't give up," Sarah said, her spirit unbroken. "We need to find a way. We must prove our loyalty even if the council sees us as traitors." As the hours passed, their resolve grew stronger. They might be trapped, but they were not defeated. Their fight was far from over, and they would do whatever it took to save the galaxy. Outside the prison, the council continued to debate. Many believed that the humans' capture would bring peace, but others worried that ignoring their warnings could lead to disaster. Little did they know that the real betrayal lay not with the humans, but within their own ranks. The clock was ticking, and with the Zarkons closing in, time was running out for everyone. The humans might be seen as the betrayers, but they were the only ones willing to step up and fight for the galaxy's future. In the dark prison cells, Captain Sarah and her team were not giving up hope. The cold metal walls felt like a cage, but their minds raced with ideas. They needed to escape and warn the galaxy about the Zarkon threat. As they whispered their plans, a sense of determination filled the air. They would not let their imprisonment stop them from fighting for what was right. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chamber, debates raged on. Some leaders pushed for action against the humans while others were hesitant. Tiliak stood up, trying to calm the heated discussion. "We must consider what the humans said. They may know something that can save us from the Zarkons." Zelthar, fuming, replied, "How can we trust them? They have betrayed us before. We should execute them to show our strength." But Tiliak was not convinced. "If we kill them, we lose a chance to gather important information. We need to think carefully." As the arguments continued, an unexpected visitor arrived. It was a representative from the Krithari, a powerful and respected race known for their advanced technology. Their leader, a wise elder named Serac, stepped forward. "I have come to speak about the humans," he announced, his voice steady. "We have been observing the situation. It is true that they were once called traitors, but they have shown courage in the face of danger. We should hear their side." The council members were silent, surprised by Serac's words. Tiliak took the chance to speak. "We must listen to them. The Zarkons are a common enemy. If we unite, we can defeat them together." Serac nodded in agreement. "The Krithari will support any plan to stop the Zarkons. Let us free the humans and give them a chance to share what they know." Slowly, the council began to consider the idea. It was risky, but the threat from the Zarkons was too great to ignore. After much debate, the council finally agreed to release the rebels on one condition: they must prove their loyalty. Back in the prison, the rebels were anxious as they waited for their fate. Suddenly, the heavy doors creaked open and a guard stepped in. "You are to follow me," he said gruffly. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, her heart pounding. "You will be taken to the council," the guard replied. "They want to hear what you have to say." As they were led through the halls, Sarah felt a mixture of fear and hope. Maybe this was their chance. When they entered the council chamber, all eyes were on them. The tension in the room was thick. Zelthar stood, glaring at them. "You have one chance to convince us that you are not the traitors we think you are." "Speak!" Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "Thank you for giving us a chance. The Zarkons are planning a massive attack on Draylon. We gathered this information while risking our lives. If we do not act now, many innocent lives will be lost." A murmur spread through the council as they listened. Tiliak leaned forward, his expression serious. "What do you propose we do?" "We need to unite our forces," Sarah replied. "We must gather as many races as we can to fight against the Zarkons. Together, we can create a strategy that uses each race's strengths. The Krethari have advanced technology, and the Zarkons will not expect an alliance of so many races." Sarak spoke up. "I believe this is wise. The Krethari will join you, and we can reach out to others. This is our chance to stand together." Zelthar remained skeptical, but Tiliak was eager to take action. "Let us not waste time. We must start building alliances immediately." The council members nodded, and soon the room buzzed with energy. They began to send messages to other races, calling for a united front against the Zarkons. It felt like a spark of hope in a dark time. Meanwhile, Sarah and her team felt a surge of pride. They had turned the tide and were now leading the charge against a common enemy. As they strategized with the Krethari and other representatives, plans began to take shape. Days passed quickly as the alliance grew stronger. Different races arrived, each with their own unique skills. The council, once filled with doubt, now buzzed with excitement. Together, they trained and prepared for battle. But deep within the Zarkon fleet, their commander, a ruthless alien named Varkon, watched as the alliance grew. "Let them gather their forces," he sneered. "They will be crushed when the time comes." Unbeknownst to the Zarkons, the tide was shifting. The once called betraying humans were now key players in the galaxy's fight for survival. Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose as she stood alongside her new allies. They would face whatever came their way, united against the darkness threatening their worlds. As the day of battle approached, the Alliance prepared, ready to show the galaxy that together they were stronger than they had ever been. The day had finally come. As the sun rose over the planet of Draylon, the air buzzed with anticipation. Rebel ships and allied vessels filled the skies, their engines humming in harmony. Captain Sarah stood on the bridge of their flagship, the Indomitable, staring out at the vast fleet. This was the moment they had been preparing for, and they were ready to face the Zarkon threat head-on. "Captain, the Zarkon fleet is approaching," Tom announced, his voice steady but filled with excitement. "They are entering the system now." Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "Prepare the ships for battle. We must protect Draylon at all costs." All around her, crew members moved swiftly, checking their weapons and systems. The atmosphere was charged with energy. Sarah could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. But she also felt a surge of hope. They were not alone in this fight. As the Zarkon ships appeared on the horizon, their dark silhouettes against the bright backdrop of space sent a chill through the rebel fleet. Varkon, the ruthless Zarkon commander, had come with a massive fleet, ready to crush the alliance that dared to oppose him. His ships were adorned with sharp edges and menacing designs, an intimidating sight for anyone. "Zarkon ships on sensors! They are entering firing range!" shouted a tactical officer. "Hold steady," Sarah commanded. "We will not back down. All ships prepare to engage." The moment felt surreal. Sarah had once been called a traitor, and now she stood leading an alliance of different races, united against a common enemy. She glanced around at her crew, determined, fierce, and ready to fight for their homes. She felt a sense of pride swell within her. As the Zarkon ships moved closer, Sarah's voice echoed through the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is our moment. We are fighting for Draylon, for our families, and for our future. Together, we will show the Zarkons that we will not be defeated." The fleet erupted with cheers, and Sarah could see the resolve in their eyes. The Zarkons were not prepared for this united front. "Fire at will!" Sarah shouted. The first volley of laser fire shot out from the Indomitable, lighting up the dark void of space. Other ships joined in, their weapons unleashing a storm of energy toward the approaching Zarkon fleet. Explosions erupted as beams of light collided with enemy vessels, sending debris scattering across the battlefield. Varkon's eyes narrowed as he watched the humans and their allies fighting back. "Foolish creatures!" he roared. "Crush them!" The Zarkon ships retaliated, launching waves of missiles toward the Alliance. The Indomitable shook as a blast struck nearby. "Shields holding at 80%!" shouted the tactical officer. "Reinforce the shields!" "We need to hold our position," Sarah commanded, her voice strong despite the chaos around her. As the battle raged on, Sarah could see Allied ships working together. Krithari vessels, with their advanced technology, shielded the rebel ships from incoming fire, while other races engaged in dogfights, taking down enemy fighters with skill and precision. It was a breathtaking display of unity and strength. But the Zarkons were relentless. They pushed forward, and soon the Alliance found themselves in a fierce struggle. Sarah could see the Zarkon flagship looming ahead, Varkon's presence heavy over the battlefield. It was clear he was determined to break their resolve. "Let's take the fight to him," Sarah yelled. "All ships, focus fire on the Zarkon flagship!" With their eyes set on the massive ship, the Alliance launched a coordinated attack. Missiles and lasers flew through space, aimed directly at Varkon's command center. The battle felt like a dance of chaos, ships dodging, weaving, and firing in a rhythm of desperation and hope. As they closed in on the flagship, Sarah's heart raced. "We can do this!" she urged her crew. "We are stronger together." Suddenly, the Indomitable took a hit, and alarms blared across the bridge. "Shields at 50%, cried Tom, struggling to maintain control. "We can't take another hit like that. Focus on repairing the shields," Sarah shouted. "We need to keep moving." As they engaged the flagship, the rebels fought with everything they had. They could not let Varkon win. With each passing moment, their determination grew stronger, fueled by the memory of all they had sacrificed to get here. In the heart of the battle, Sarah knew they were fighting for more than just victory. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. As the Alliance pushed forward, the tide began to turn. "Look!" Tom shouted, pointing at the flagship. "Its shields are failing. Now is our chance," Sarah yelled. "Finish this!" With a final surge of energy, the Alliance unleashed everything they had left. A barrage of fire struck the flagship, and in a blinding flash it exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. Cheers erupted across the fleet as the Zarkons fell back, their formation broken. But the battle was far from over. The Alliance had won this fight, but the war against the Zarkons had just begun. As the dust settled from the fierce battle above Draylon, a sense of relief washed over the Allied forces. The remains of the Zarkon flagship drifted in space, a testament to their hard-won victory. Ships began to regroup, and the cheers of the crew echoed throughout the Indomitable as they celebrated their triumph. Captain Sarah stood on the bridge, her heart still racing from the battle. She felt a mix of joy and exhaustion. They had done the impossible. They had united against the Zarkons and emerged victorious. However, she knew that this was just the beginning. "Status report!" she called, her voice strong despite the fatigue. Tom, her trusted tactical officer, quickly tapped his console. "All ships are accounted for. The Zarkon fleet is retreating, but they will regroup. We need to prepare for their next move." Sarah nodded. "Contact the Galactic Council. They need to know about our success and the danger that still looms over us." As the communication link opened, Tiliak's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mix of pride and concern. "Captain Sarah, we are receiving reports of your victory. You have shown great courage today." "Thank you, Tiliak. But we cannot let our guard down. The Zarkons will return stronger. We need to rally the other races and prepare for their next attack," Sarah replied, her tone serious. Tiliak nodded. "I agree. We must use this victory to strengthen our alliances. I will call for an emergency meeting of the Council to discuss our next steps." After the communication ended, Sarah gathered her crew. "We need to act quickly. Let's reach out to the other races and share what we've learned. Together we can build a defense that the Zarkons cannot break." The crew sprang into action, sending messages to their allies across the galaxy. The Krithari, the Auron, and many others responded, eager to join the fight. They began to discuss strategies and share resources, uniting their strengths to prepare for the battles ahead. As the days passed, the alliance grew stronger. New ships arrived, and warriors from different races trained together, sharing skills and tactics. The atmosphere aboard the Indomitable buzzed with excitement and determination. Sarah felt a sense of hope she had never experienced before. One evening, as the crew gathered for a briefing, Sarah addressed them. "I want to thank each of you for your hard work and dedication. We have shown that when we stand together, we are powerful. The Zarkons may try to divide us, but they will fail. We are not just fighting for ourselves, we are fighting for the future of our galaxy." Cheers erupted from the crew, their spirits high. They had come so far, and Sarah could see the change in their eyes. They were no longer just rebels, they were heroes. But even as the Alliance prepared for their next steps, the Zarkon commander, Varkon, was plotting his revenge. Deep in his dark lair, he seethed with anger. "They think they can defeat me? They will regret their actions," he growled. He was determined to regain control and teach the Alliance a lesson they would never forget. Meanwhile, Sarah and her team continued to strengthen their defenses. They shared technology and intelligence, forming a network of support that would be ready when the Zarkons returned. They even established a training program for new recruits, teaching them the skills they needed to fight. As word of their victory spread, more races joined their cause. The once divided factions of the galaxy were coming together, united by a common goal. Each day brought new allies and new resources, and Sarah felt a growing sense of hope. Then came the day when the Galactic Council gathered again. This time the atmosphere was filled with purpose. Races that had once viewed each other with suspicion were now united. Tiliak stood before the assembly, his voice filled with determination. "We have all seen the strength of unity. We must continue to build this alliance. Together, we can not only defend our homes but also bring peace to the galaxy," he proclaimed. Sarah felt a surge of pride as she listened. The council had embraced her vision, and they were ready to take action. As the meeting concluded, Sarah knew they had turned a corner. The Zarkons would not be able to defeat them. Together, they had created something new, a force that could stand against any threat. But as she looked out at the stars, she remembered the battles yet to come. The galaxy was vast and filled with dangers, but with hope in their hearts and strength in their unity, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. In that moment, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had become more than a coalition of races. They had become a family. Together they would fight for their future, and together they would prevail. A new hope was born, one that would light the way for generations to come.